Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur, joined by Dan from Change for Tottenham. And this is going to be something a little different. We are going to be learning about the protests for this Sunday, the march that will be planned, as well as also the stadium movement that will be planned. And we have Dan from Change for Tottenham here to explain the movement, here to represent them, but also just here to, if you are interested in getting involved, whether you're an international fan, whether you are a fan close to the ground, just in the UK and you want to learn more, this is an opportunity for Change for Tottenham as well as Dan to explain their movement, explain what's going on this Sunday a little bit better, but then also just to explain why it's important, why you should be paying attention. But Dan, thanks for making the time. Good to
Pleasure.
have you
Thanks
with
for having me,
us.
Jack. It's much appreciated.
And I think, without further ado, just for the sake of your time, we'll just get straight into this one. So
Yeah,
everybody
go for it.
look at this like, reading a book. It's going to be much more informative than the usual nonsense and clickbait that Dave and I usually put out for you guys. So in fact, I'd say this is probably one of the better programs. But it's Change
I'll
for
do my
Spurs,
best.
Dan. It was formed in 2023. Why did you get together in the first place? And if you don't mind explaining, because some people know about the supporters trust, at Tottenham, what is maybe the difference just for kind of simpletons like myself? What is the difference between the supporters trust
Yeah.
and Change for Tottenham?
So I think it's. While we started it, I think it's been a long time coming. Again, I think we briefly spoke off air. Going back to, I think we mentioned the Ramos days, and again, not to go too far back, but we sold Berbatov last day of the window, signed Fraser Campbell on loan. These little things that kind of kept, little nitpicking things that kept happening, and they're still happening to this day. And I think that the sacking of Pochettino is when I fully kind of turned, and then I had a group of guys and girls that are part of Change for Tottenham that all had the same thought process, but we wanted to go about it. I don't want to say we want it to be respectful, because at the end of the day, there are people that have got jobs. There are people that that have more important things in their lives that they don't want to kind of potentially cause problems with. So, there's nothing personal towards Daniel Levy when it comes to this. It's about how things are run on the football side. And in general, we don't believe it's being run correctly. Off the field, we can't argue. The financial side, the revenue streams that he brings in, no issue. In a sense of what he's doing there, we can't argue. But what we can say is that money being pushed back into the football side, and we are looking less and less like a football club as we speak. I mean, I've had 2 emails through today, just from being a season ticket holder, and one's about Kendrick Lamar and the other one's about Beyonce. I just think it's one. I know we laugh, but it's one of them where I'm not here for adulation. I'm not here to promote myself and bring lots of followers and so forth. I'm merely a Spurs fan for 21 years. I've got a season ticket. I just want to be able to go and see my team compete and be successful. And I've rarely seen that in my years following Spurs. And then obviously moving on to your next point of the trust. I mean, it's difficult to comment on the trust in the sense of I don't really want to badmouth or say anything wrong in that sense. I mean, I'd say that they've got hardworking people that work there as well that want to do, I think, right by the fans. I think again they're probably in a tough predicament with regards to their contact with the board. I think you probably kind of you're tired a little bit. So I'd say the difference with us is we've probably got a bit more freedom in a sense where we can maybe open up to the fans and be a bit more vocal. And I think that's what we have done. And we've tried to create a movement where we're trying to say to fans, and like you say, I think we spoke earlier, you've probably got 20% that agree, 20% that don't agree, and 60% that probably sit on the fence. And that 60% is what we want to kind of get to join what we're saying. A lot of people ask what change is. Change can be what you want. I mean, ideally, we'd love Ennick and Levy to go, but we have to be realistic. Is that going to happen? And a lot of fans will say that to you, they're not just going to leave. No, you're probably right. They're not just going to leave. But actually, could we force change? Potentially, yeah. We've seen it in the past with the European Super League, with what the fans were so unhappy about it. Now, whether that was just because we were protesting about it, but a lot of other clubs were, but it got scrapped. I'm saying there are, fans do have a lot more power than what we actually give ourselves credit for.
And so it sounds like in your case, maybe since the Berbatov transfer, just in general, right? Start to notice a pattern, start to feel like maybe Spurs kept making the same mistakes. And now maybe in the last, sounds like few years or so, you've started to realized that maybe something did need to be done, and you've now joined, Change for Tottenham. And like you just said there, you're not in any way, promoting some sort of profile or anything like that. You just feel like, you can speak, for some of the frustrations that a lot of Spurs fans have been having, but also that's kind of what Change for Tottenham is all about. It's just finding that people who share these similar frustrations and annoyances with the club can feel like you guys are the representation of that. Just maybe on your objectives. One of your objectives include, and you kind of actually just said it there, having the club sort of set out a clear on-field success type of vision that in a way rivals that of their off the field sort of vision, because off the field they seem to have everything down to a T. Every dot is eyed, every T is crossed. But when it comes to on the field success, the vision just doesn't seem to be as coherent, and I believe that's one of your objectives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'd like to say I speak for a lot. I mean, I speak for myself and obviously the guys at CFT as well. And I think a lot of other fans do feel the same. But then you do have fans that won't feel the same. And that's absolutely fine. I respect all opinions, and I think it's really important. And that's why we have these debates and we have these conversations. But when you're looking at the objectives on the field, what's the plan? I mean, this season, what was the plan? Where's the transparency? Because I know we've signed young players, I get that, but these players weren't meant to play the minutes they are. Now, I know we've had injuries. I'm not saying that's anything at all to do with Daniel Levy and the board, by the way. That would be going a bit too far. But what I will say is we sold, obviously, Højbjerg. I know a lot of fans on the fence with him, but again, he was an experienced player. And we sold other players as well. But we brought in one player, really, that strengthened our first team. That was Solanke. Other than that, we didn't really bring anybody in to compete in other positions. And we were really short at the back, which is shown. I think we had one left back in Udogie. I think Reguilon was kind of wanted to be, I think the club wanted to sell him. Yeah. Spence, again, I know he wasn't used until he had to be, I think it was Southampton in December. I mean, there's a few decisions that obviously comes towards the management, but I think in general, it does end up falling back at the board and how they've kind of dealt in the transfer market. So ideally, we'd like some transparency. We would like the club to start competing with our rivals. Our revenue streams are huge, and our wages are lowest in the top 8, I believe, compared to what we bring in revenue-wise. And that, for me, is unacceptable. We know successful clubs, people say, Spurs spend money. Yeah, we have spent money, but there are ways to structure deals as well, where money doesn't go out in large chunks, but your wages will always be there. They are the where your expenditure is going to be. I know there's been mistakes with Ndombele and so forth, probably wasn't handled greatly, and he was on a big wage. But in general, you have to take those risks. And I think that this club just does not take those risks to be successful. I think they're just happy to sign the young players, hope they become a big hit. And this is the thing that's a big problem for me as well. Archie Gray has been superb this season. Give it 2 or 3 years. If we're still not competing, well, he's going to go.
Yeah.
And what are we going to recoup for him, Jack? I know you said 80 million. Let's say, for example, Man City come in 80 million. I want to go. Right, okay. He's gone for 80 million. We then start the whole process again. We'll go to Leeds again and find another youngster and go, he's going to be good for the future, this guy. He's not ready now. But this has been a common theme with Spurs. And it's something that is tiresome. But also, you go back to Mourinho and Conte, it's like, I'll just keep throwing money at these managers, expecting them to be able to produce with what they're given. And it hasn't worked in 24 years. So our confidence in that is obviously at an all-time low, that is going to change. So we're asking him to change his policies, change his ways. Ideally, we'd like him to leave. That is the goal. But is it realistic? Probably not. So we have to look at what changes. And that's why that word is there. So ideally, like I say, the message behind it is change your ways, start investing in the player size properly. Yeah. Get us to compete with our rivals. I think Arsenal's wage budget is over £100 million more than ours. And that is crazy.
And ambition comes into mind, right, when it comes to the board, because when you look at maybe Daniel Levy's time, maybe there have been some ups and downs that I might not even be aware of. But for the most part, from the outset, it looks like a bit of a linear trajectory when it comes to his business profile of Tottenham Hotspur, right? He's
Yeah,
raised the revenue streams, he's
absolutely.
raised the status of the club on a financial perspective on so many levels. And it's been, for the most part, a pretty linear curve. But when it comes to the on the field success, on the field ambition, it's either flatlined, gone backwards, flatlined, gone backwards. There's not really been that sort of linear curve to it. And even the fact that you mention someone like an Archie Gray might be sold in a few years' time because the success won't really be there. That shows him that this is a club worth sticking around in. We've been here
Mm.
before, with Gareth Bale, the Luka Modric's of the world. And we were told by Daniel Levy that we were going to eventually avoid that, sort of
Yeah,
outcome of, having these guys that we're going to develop and then sell for 100 million, ideally, maybe we can actually hold on to these guys, potentially build around them and actually become an ambitious team. And it's interesting that with Tottenham Hotspur's board, you get on one side of things a very linear sort of projection and how they've developed things, how they've improved things year in, year out. But then on the football side of things, it's nowhere near as obvious, the trajectory.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point, Jack, as well. Like, things that I've missed there. But yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And I think that it's a concern, and it's been going on for too long. I mean, what I will say is the Tottenham fan base is probably the most patient fan base in world football. No, but because
I
again,
agree.
like it's 24 years, and I know we're now at a point, and I know there are fans that disagree, and I can understand that. And they talk about the financials, and I get it. The football is a business as well, but ultimately we are a football club, and we haven't been acting like one, I don't think, for quite a long time now. And I feel that it's, certainly since Pochettino days, we're kind of like, it feels like we're just, like I say, throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. And currently nothing has.
No.
But it hasn't worked for some time, and that needs to change.
100%. Just a quick follow up, though. Do you feel like in the fan forums that you've maybe seen or witnessed, do you feel like you have seen any sign of transparency when it comes to laid out visions or plans when it comes to on the field? Because when it comes to off the field, they're very good at, telling
Yeah,
we're doing this, we're doing that. But
yeah.
when have they given you any sort of sign of like maybe they're improving on that transparency aspect of what they're trying to do on the pitch?
No, not really. I think we had a 12-minute video, didn't we, from Johan Lange, I think it was,
Yeah.
about how hard it was to do deals in January. And look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm in a position of him, of Lange, that I can go and make signings quite easily. I think a lot of the fans' issues and my issue with it, Jack, was we've known about these injuries and the problems that we've had. And look, I think we had 8 or 9 games in January. We didn't win a lot of them, but the one game we were looking at was Liverpool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the Liverpool game, and we've signed 2 players 2 days before that game starts, and they've both had a major part to play in it. And we're expecting them to. Oh, Danzo's playing great. Not really seen him play. Don't get me wrong. He did a good job, to be fair. Like a whole load of scorelines there. He played, but you've thrown him in at the deep end alongside Archie Gray at left back and Davies, and then you've got Tell that comes on because obviously Richardson's injured. Obviously, he can't help injuries. I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, this is our biggest game of the season so far. We've sat on our hands and we've just watched the game fly, pass us by. And bless the fans that have gone up there, all 6,000 of them, to witness that. And again, there was a lot of, we didn't perform well. We should be at least having a shot on target, in a game like of that stature, of that caliber. And I think that, Ange can't hide from that. But ultimately, he was the one that was getting the fingers pointed. And I'm thinking, no, this. Yes, he's a massively at fault. Yes, he is. But let's try and look a bit beyond that now and realise that actually, is he another one that's going to be left hung out to dry here? Because this isn't the first time it's happened. And currently, I don't believe it will be the last. So I just want our team to compete. We're not here as entitled fans thinking that we're going to win everything. I don't think that. I know how hard it is to win trophies, to win a Premier League or a Champions League or a Europa League. It's not easy. And I think that fans are aware of that. But to be able to compete and show that, you've done your best and you want the team to do well is all we want to see from the other side. And I don't think we're seeing that.
I think, and to add to your point there too, I think a lot of Spurs fans, at least in my opinion, have actually come together and united over their frustration with the board and Levy, because it just seems like we're just watching a lot of the same mistakes year in, year out, and they're not really learning from them. And I think that's where, whether you feel more strongly about Levy or less strongly compared to others, I think a lot of people could find that common agreement that they're kind of just making the same mistakes. So somebody has to raise a voice about it. But it sounds like from your answer that the fan forums, the interviews with Johan Lange, it's an attempt to try to be transparent, but they actually haven't really achieved that or really done it in the way that we wanted them to. But I do want to get to the specifics on what's going to be happening this Sunday, if you can, for me, Dan. Tell us about the details. I know that there's a meeting point, I think, on the high road across from the West Stand, if that's correct, at 2:45. March to sort of play around 3, and then tell me about the stadium. What's happening there?
Yeah, so the crossroads is a march. So obviously we've said about it being respectful, and again I'm going to reiterate that because that's really key. I know some, and I get it. Tottenham belongs to the fans. We're all passionate about it, including me. I'm a huge Spurs fan. I have been all my life, and when we talk about respectful, we just want the message to get across correctly. And when we say obviously peaceful, we mean as in like, let's not be derogatory. Let's not sing song with swear words in and things like that. We're talking about the Daniel Levy and Kulusevski song. Now, I was thinking that we're kind of saying that would be the chance to sing. We don't care about Levy. He doesn't care about us, but we care about THFC is what we wanted to put across as a song as we walk to the ground. And we think that would highlight, we're not saying be peaceful as in walk in silence, but we have to realise that the thing is, Jack, there's you've got elderly people that attend games, you've got children that attend games, you've got families that attend games, people with disabilities, and you've got people attending their first games. And we've got to be respectful of that and understand that it's not just about us grown-up adults shouting, swearing, and trying to create this toxic atmosphere. It's not about that. It's about showing the board that we are unhappy and we're going to explain why we're unhappy and we're going to sing about it and show. So that's part of what we want to do with regards to the march. And every number counts. I can't reiterate it enough that if you're on the fence or if you're worried that you're just going to be on your own, please just come and say hello to me or some of the guys. We're all Tottenham fans. It's not about me. It's not about all the other guys at CFC. It's about every single Tottenham fan that has the same belief. And if you don't believe it or you're happy with what's going on, it's absolutely fine as well. We're not here to tell you you've got to support what we're doing. Not at all. Everyone's got their own opinions, and we respect that fully. I especially do anyway. And then for me, the key one is the sit-in. And the reason why. So that's it. The reason why I think that's the key one is, again, for health and safety reasons, we've asked, because I sit in the south and I think a few of the other guys, and I think obviously because it's the wall, people tend to go, let's gather there. But I am told by some of our guys at the club have asked them to stay in their seats just for health and safety reasons after the game if you believe in the cause. So that's really important that does happen, because I wouldn't want somebody to try and get into the south and then get thrown out and it cause problems. So by all accounts, if you're in the east, west, north, and there's fans gathering, by all accounts, if you can get there safely, please go and join them. And the sit-in, again, for us is about again singing and making the club aware that we're not happy with what's going on the field, and that's the plan. And it would be great to have thousands in there to actually show. I think again, Jack, sorry to keep going on,
please.
But the real importance behind this is that actually I believe the club probably think it's going to be a mere 100, 200 people. Now, I think if the club realise and see thousands of fans sitting in after that game, I reckon they will they'll take notice. There's no doubt about it, because you can't hide from that fact. It's on Sky TV after the game. They interview the club.
Yep.
Andrew will have an interview. You'll have the Man United man. They'll be out there, and if we're there behind singing about our discontent in the right, respectful way, it can't be avoided. It can't be hidden. And I think that is really important that every fan, and again, like I say, it is a Sunday. People may have work. They may have young children, young families who need to get home. Absolutely understand that. And if you believe in the message, but you can't stay behind, again, it's one of those things. But even if you can give, 20 minutes of your time once the game ends, just to stay in and show the discontent and sing those songs with us and join us in making the board aware, I think it'll be a big thing for them to see. Like I say, every fan counts, and the more the better. So it'd be brilliant to get thousands of fans in after the game to voice their discontent.
And I'll just say to everyone, please, in the description, you can follow Change for Tottenham. There's a graphic that very clearly details, everything that you need to know if in case you want to get involved. But just in case people are just listening, driving to work or something like that, Dan, right now, maybe tell just maybe some of the logistical details if they wanted to participate in either the protest march beforehand or even the stadium protest afterwards, the sit-in.
Yeah. So, or if they want to participate, yeah. So
Yeah, so like just details, maybe timing, maybe
yeah,
sections
so
that they need to
timing
meet
will
in.
be obviously by Crossroads at 3:00. We're probably going to be a little bit earlier, about 2:00, to start obviously meeting and having discussions, and hoping fans will just come along from 2:00, ready to march for 3:00. And then the sit-in will be after the game. So once the game finishes, we'll be asking fans, if you believe in what we're trying to change, then please stay behind and make your feelings felt. Again, just to reiterate, not to go over it too much, but the health and safety policy is obviously be careful. If you can't get to a place, please don't try, because again, we wouldn't want you to be escorted out the stadium or not allowed back in, for example. So, but if you can get somewhere safe and gather with more fans and make it a bit of a group, then by all means, please do.
I wanted to throw that question kind of in the middle, just in case people, as people are sort of piling in, listening. I figured that would be
Yeah.
a good timing for people maybe who have just arrived. There you are. Those are the details you need. But also in the description, follow Change for Tottenham. Follow Dan here as well. I put that in there, and I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be able to miss any of the information that you need in order to participate and be there. But now I'm going to kind of change gears towards, again, some of the issues that we've been having with the board, and get your sort of opinions on that. But what do you think of maybe the club's recent on the field vision, whatever that looks like? Because recently we've been bringing in a lot of young potential to sort of develop them. What do you see about that? Is this just maybe Spurs looking to make the same mistakes of the past? Do you think they are actually trying something different with bringing in all these young players? What do you make of the fact that maybe Daniel Levy has gone for an interesting strategy of spending a lot of money, but not necessarily on the Ezas or the Netos or the, I don't know, the Gyökereshes that maybe we thought they would have, over the summer? What do you make of the club's current on the field vision, if you think there is one at all?
That's a great question, because investing in youth isn't a bad thing at all. I mean, we could it shows in Bergvall and Gray. It's not a bad thing at all. And if we're being honest, they've been little stars for us, really, in these tough times, these tough moments. When it comes to the policy, I think that it's a balancing game, and I just think they've never had the balance and they've never got it right, and that's a huge concern, because I can't remember when they have got it right in the 24 years. And when I say that, I say, like, this season just gone by in the transfer window, Gray, Bergvall, Solanke. Solanke was the only one that would improve that first team squad. Now, our top targets, we were led to believe, was, I'm not sure about Eze, but I know Neto was. He was a top target for us. And we didn't land him, so we go and get Odebear. No disrespect to Odebear. He might turn out to be a great player. And what we have seen glimpses of him, he looks very good. But ultimately, again, not to be disrespectful to other clubs, we signed him from Burnley. We're sitting in a £1 billion stadium. We've just got back into Europa League. We're talking about kicking on to challenge and win things, and talking about trophies, and we've got Anjin and all these kind of aspects that they're talking about what we're looking to do. And you just think, well, it's only Solanke, really. Don't get me wrong, Gray.
That's the big name.
Yeah, Gray stepped in and done amazingly well. But anyone would look at it and go, well, we need left-back cover because of the way Ange likes to play. We've got Spence at right-back. We didn't use him for a long time. We probably need another centre-half. I'd say midfield-wise, in all honesty, I think we were pretty much, don't get me wrong, now, there's some players that I would get rid of. But at the start of the season, you'd be looking at Basuma, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Maddison. You say these are strong players. Sarr, these are strong players in these positions. Some of them just haven't performed this season to the best of their ability. So you maybe look at it and go, there could be some changes there. And then your wingers are so important, and we just didn't have the depth. I mean, we've got Brennan Johnson, and then Mikey Moore. And bless Mikey Moore, there's no doubt he's probably going to be a superstar. Well, he looks like he's heading that way, but he's 17. Yeah. We're asking him to come and play and affect games. that is something he should be getting 15-minute cameos. We're sending him out in Europe and we're
Yeah.
sending him out away in Premier League games, and that's a big ask for someone of his age. And then Odegaard, who obviously unfortunately got injured, we've got Solomon out on loan, so we're left with Son. Richarlison's injured. You know, that's been quite a common theme with him. And you just look at across the board and you're just thinking, where's the planning? What's the direction?
100%.
I struggled to see it. I don't know what was discussed in the summer. I don't know how they thought that it was acceptable, what was done. But then I've thought that about pretty much every transfer window. You know, even at Pochettino, we go back to there, 18 months without signing. We signed Lucas Moura in January. Okay, like he was quite a big name at the time, and you're thinking that might kick us on a little bit. But Harry Kane played as a striker for us for about 4 or 5 seasons without a replacement. And then we signed players like Vincent Janssen. Oh, we can't sign a player because they don't want to play second fiddle to Harry Kane. I'm just thinking, this is utter nonsense. This can't be right. So we run him into the ground, and it just goes to show, as soon as he's gone, this is the Tottenham that they've built without Harry Kane.
Yeah. It always feels like every season that they're maybe looking to try to cut costs or cut corners in some sort of regard, you know, transfer wise. And it's come to the price of the manager, to the price of our own sort of sanity, you know, watching the team every season. My fear is with whatever sort of on the field vision they have with these youngsters is, could it end up being like a lot of the strategies and projects up before where they kind of get maybe a quarter way halfway through it, and then they just sort of chop it up and just start over again with something different. We've seen that before where managers have come into teams or squads where there's so much of it that's just a rendition of, you know, the previous managers' years and time there. And then it takes forever for them to even try to sort of undo maybe that work or, you know, sort of get the guys out that they might want, get the guys in that they might need. It's always been a struggle in that department. And so you hope that, you know, this vision with the youth has some sort of end goal in mind that they can show us, you know, sometime soon, because we see this. And when we ask them about this sometimes, Dan, right, we don't really get a clear answer when sometimes we ask them about this.
Again, you make some great points, Jack, like really, really good points there, because, and it's something that I didn't touch on either, but you look at, how many projects have we had? I mean, everything seems to be a project. And then the club just steps in, and within that season, they go and win the league. Because and what it boils down to, I mean, Leicester was like against the grain, right? It wasn't expected what Leicester did. But, you know, most clubs that have won things is because they sign the best players, but also have a nice balance, right? So I'm not saying that Tottenham needs to go and sign 11 players worth over 100 million. I'm not saying that, not at all. But again, you look at Arsenal, for example. So they've spent a bit of money, granted they have, but they've identified. I think they're probably a striker short of probably winning the title, if we're being honest. But they've invested in. Look at their backline: Calafiori, Ben White, and they've also got that Miles Lewis-Skelly come through. They're the things that we should be looking at as a club. Like, okay, right, we've got a Daly who can play left back from our youth. If there's no one good enough, go and get someone to cover that area. They identified that they need a centre midfielder. 105 million on Declan Rice. We would never do that as a football club. And I think that is the concern, because that's what we're not saying that you have to spend that on 2 or 3 players, but if it's needed and it's worth it, please try and do it. But we just don't seem to. And this is where the disappointment is, and this is where the changes need to happen, because we are creating the revenue. We are a big club, but we're being held back on the field. Off the field, crikey, like, you know, you can't criticise it, but you certainly can on the field. And ultimately, we are a football club, and this is where our passion lies, and this is why we want change. And if that's with you in charge, but you're going to change your ways, then we'd like to see it. If not, we'd like you to go, and we will keep voicing our discontent.
And also the average fan has a better opinion on these type of things of what the on-field success could look like. You know, we're not going to claim to be experts on sort of the business and financial accounting side of things, but and so that's why we have left it to Levy, you know, to sort of do his work and do his business. And he's done great in that department, at least from the outside in. Looks like he's done great. It's just we have, as common football fans, you know, we do have some insight on, you know, how the club could look and how it could improve. And they seem to just take nothing on board. And also as well, just don't seem to have any sort of transparency with what, you know, it'd be nice to know, like, if they are going to buy this many young players, what is, you know, the end goal? Like, why is it that they've gone for that approach? They don't have to give away the whole plan, but whenever they are even asked about these type of things in either transfer forums or, fan forums, Johan Lange videos. We don't really get that clear answer. And you sort of proved that to me as well. This is an important question, Dan, and I don't think, and I only have like 2 left for you.
No, it's fine. No, I've got time, mate. So
appreciate you making the time. But this this is only your opinion. I'll give my opinion on it as well. But I do feel like maybe it is worth giving an answer to. Some people have argued in the past that the best strategy to get the board to change their ways, to get Daniel Levy to listen, is to just boycott the game, stop buying merch, stop buying beer, stop going to the games, even in some cases, is what some people have said. Do you think that is like an effective means? Do you think that is, a better version than others? Or do you think there is no right way, wrong way to voice your discontent? How do you feel about that? Because, that's always been like something that people will just throw out there. They'll kind of just say, well, just don't go to the games, or just don't buy the beer, or don't, do whatever, to, give money to them. That's how they'll listen. Don't feed their pockets. What do you make of that argument?
I'll keep saying it. Again, it's a really good question, Jack. It is a really good question. So boycotting a game would be amazing. It would be, right? But we have to, again, think of people that spend their hard-earned money. They've got season tickets. They may be in the ground with family members. They may bring their kids. It's all these things that you look at and go, well, it's a day out. And do you know what, Jack? Some people have work Monday to Friday really hard. Hard working week, and they want a release. And football is their release. I think to ask that is a very, very big ask. And you would need at least 10 to 15,000 to do the walkout, which I think is probably unrealistic. Unless the movement gets bigger and you can see people behind it, it might be a possibility. To not go to games, again, I think it's very, very difficult to ask that question, to ask that of fans that go, because of the things that I mentioned. It's a release for people to go to, football's a lot of people, a lot of people's lives surround around football, and they need that. I mean, one of our members he goes home and away, goes everywhere, and he's a great guy, spends a lot of his time and it's, he spoke about, I won't name him, but he spoke about losing a parent, and Tottenham got him through it. Mm-hmm. And I think they're the things that you realise that actually there's a lot of importance to being at the games for people and being around it. It's 90 minutes of a release where you're just passionate about and you want your team to do well. And then you discuss it afterwards with your friends, and you're in the ground and you have a beer and it just happens. It would be great to eventually maybe get to that point, but to ask fans to do that is very difficult. And, to ask fans not to attend as well. Again, the idea behind it, and I get people's concept behind it 100%. I just wouldn't feel right to ask the everyday fan of, look, just don't turn up. Just don't turn up. I would love for it to happen, but I wouldn't kind of want to dictate to fans to do that. But if it got to a point with our group of what we're doing, and it built up to a point where nothing was changing, and fans believed that, right, that's it, I'm going to boycott a game and not go, and we had a big following to do that, then of course it would be something we'd look at. Absolutely.
I think that's a very well-balanced answer from yourself. And to be honest, I think like if one wants to make that decision on their own, I think that's a very powerful statement to make. And of course, you would be, quite, I think you should be, in a way pretty proud of yourself if you have that sort of willpower, that sort of strength to do that, right? Even if you love something, that you might be feeding sort of the problem in some way. And so you just want to remove yourself from it. But at the end of the day, like you just said there, you kind of need probably a huge collection of people to do the exact same thing in order for it to really, truly be noticed. And that is a huge ask of thousands of people to do, to just give up going to a game or give up to go to multiple games is really what it would have to be probably for people to take notice. And so sometimes there will have to be then alternatives, other methods to pretty much garner the same attention, to pretty much garner the same sort of, notice of, this is what they're trying to spread in terms of a message. And I think what you guys will be doing this Sunday certainly is the right step in the right direction to achieve that. So, I mean, any final sort of comments, any questions, anything that maybe, Dan, this is my question to you, like anything that you feel like I didn't ask you that you wish that maybe you wanted to bring up or something like that for this?
I think the international fans.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's an important one. I think we spoke off air, and I think that
right,
because a lot of international fans can feel maybe slightly disconnected from it, which you shouldn't, because I think we spoke before, and I live 40 minutes from the stadium, right? And I think I said to you, Jack, I'm guessing, but you're about 4,000 miles away from the stadium. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I won't say, but my season ticket would for 19 home games that I get to attend because I live near the ground would cost just as much as you coming to one game for what you'd have to lay out financially. And I think that is a massive thing that people seem to forget. And, I admire, our international fans for what they do to get over. I think somebody actually tagged some of our guys who's flying in from Austria to attend the protest. And that's just, simply amazing. I get to jump on a train that takes me 40 minutes. There's a big difference, and so for us, like the international fans, we recognise and we talk about it quite a lot behind the scenes because you make massive sacrifices, you guys. I think you said to me, "Good morning." I don't know what time it is where you are. We're kind of mid up, but there's I've got a lot of respect for that and a lot of time, and I think for international fans to get involved, what we were trying to do, I think we put up a poster where you could print it off and put where you are in the world. So if you make your own, you can be any sign. Obviously, we'd ask it not to be kind of offensive, but we'd ask you to put, maybe leave it out or change, like anything you want, wherever you're based. But put a sign up and tag us in it and say where you're from, and we will retweet every single one. That's the plan, and that's how we can get everybody involved. And like I say, you're just as important as anyone that's in the ground. The more numbers that the club can see. And that can be via social media or via in person. It's just as important because it shows that it's travelling and that there are many more fans that are not in that stadium that are discontent. And the reason why they're not in that stadium is because they live far away and it's not as easy to get to the ground as it is for some.
Yeah, and I'd also say too, check out. He was going to be on the evening before, whenever this was going out, and David Harris, who's I think expat now in Australia, he had a great photo of himself in Sydney, showing his solidarity with the protest. So in case you want to follow in his footsteps, put yourself outside an opera house or something like that, feel free to do so. But Dan, thank you so much, man. Thanks for making the time for me, and thanks for coming on to the Irish Hotspur, for allowing Dave and I to spread your guys' message, something that we absolutely support and condone. And so thank you for making the time. And
thanks for having us.
Best of luck to you guys on Sunday. Hopefully it goes swimmingly. Hopefully you get a win, but more importantly, at this moment in time, there are bigger things at Tottenham Hotspur to worry about. So best of luck to you.
No, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. And like I say, when you're next over, make sure you drop me a message and we'll grab a beer.
Would love to. Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for watching this back, and see you later for more content before the game this weekend.
Cheers, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Bye.